movieweb.com.
May I help you, sir?
So what do we got?
We got our shooter. That's not just fear, that's recognition. He knew him. Turns out some gang ambushed them and killed his brother.
Smile for the camera. It took me 10 whole years to track down these people for you. I'm gonna kill them all. Smile for the camera.
We've seen you in comedies for a few years, and you're so great in them. But here you are, returning to action.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, did you just want to get back on screen and kick some ass, or like what? What was it? Did you just like, I gotta beat some guy up? Come on.
Well, the action space is my home, and I love physicality and I love action. I was just waiting. I was just passing on a couple of action roles that just didn't feel right to me. So, that's why I was doing comedies and families and back and forth with more comedies. But this came along, the script came along. It was fantastic, and I love the notion of a straightforward story. You took something I loved, you ripped him away, my brother, and you killed him, and now you're gonna pay. I'm gonna serve 10 years of prison every day of that sentence, and when I get out, I'm gonna find every single one of you, and you're gonna pay with your life. And then not only that, but I think, to give credit to the writers, just how well written it was, where, with every guy who I go find, a lot takes place over the course of 10 years, and a lot's changed. Some men have become better men. Some are fathers, some are husbands. One's an evangelist who's impacted the lives of thousands of kids. What happens if I take this man's life? So there's that inner turmoil and emotion that you struggle with and deal with. So aside from, yes, I can't wait to go back and start kicking ass all over the place, the story was great.
Well, cop, where'd he go?
He went downstairs, officer.
So let me ask you about your character, because he's the bad guy, but he's got really good motives, it seems like. I mean, he cares about his son, he cares about his wife or ex-wife. Can you talk a little bit about the character and his motives?
Yeah, well, I've kind of always liked to, I've gravitated toward characters who are a bit ambiguous, guys who are, you can't really say they're bad guys or good guys. You don't really know exactly what's going on inside them. And I always like those guys who are a little more complex inside, So that definitely attracted me to doing the part and doing the movie.
And he's got a heroin addiction that he's dealing with. I can't remember, have you played an addict or something like that on screen before? Was it difficult getting into that aspect of the role?
I've played it, like alcoholics a couple of times. I played a drug guy years ago in a movie called One False Move, but he was more into the up the nose. He was more one of those guys, Right. But yeah, it wasn't that hard, especially with Junkie, because they just kind of float through anyway, you know what I mean? So, and being in the rock and roll business since I was a kid, I've seen plenty of that.
That boy they killed was my brother.
I can bring him back. In my heart, I'm sorry. Can you at least find it in your heart to forgive me?
I can't.
Sorry. But I forgive you for what you're about to do. Lord, see into this man's heart. Do it inside. I know you. That right. God can't save you.
Talk to me about the character, because he, is fueled by this revenge, this hatred, and it's almost like eating him inside, eating him up inside when he's in prison.
Sure, he's fueled by this. The character's fueled by revenge, fueled by hatred. But at the same time, this interesting thing happens, certainly without not giving the movie away, but just where he is in this incredible place, fork in the road. You have an opportunity to forgive. You wrong someone, because we start off, and the character starts off, he's not doing good things, but you have an opportunity to forgive someone who wronged you. What do you do? You know, and that was a powerful scene. I love shooting.
And you have
scene
that
right
arc
away.
because he does sort of change. He does
does.
realize some things.
He does. I think he realizes that there is power in forgiveness. You know, it is easy oftentimes, and we see this on the news all the time, for somebody to take another man's life with a gun. That's easy, whether it was righteous or not, or you know, whether he feels like he was doing the right thing. But there is great power in forgiving someone.
Yeah.
And we've all been faced with that. You know, somebody who's wronged us or we felt wronged. Do we forgive? Do we not?
And the film itself kind of felt like sort of a throwback to some of the classic 70s, you know, felt like a Peck and Paw or Point Blank or even Vanishing Point. Could you talk about sort of the mood and the tone that the director set and his vision for the film?
Yeah, they actually told me that before we did the movie. They really loved that aspect of the movie, that it did seem like one of those 70s movies, and those are some of my favorite movies. And I was a big Peck and Paw fan, you know, and you mentioned Vanishing Point, one of my favorite movies of all time. So, yeah, I was glad they were doing that. At the same time, they managed to, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to give it a contemporary look and feel as well as a 70s look and feel. I don't know how they did it, but they got both things. I think probably in the editing and the sound design, it's got a more contemporary feel because it's, you know, it's really fast and loud, you know. But no, I enjoyed doing it very much. But I was happy that they were purposely going for that 70s vibe.
Absolutely. Well, that was the one thing that came across that virtually exploded. You know, as you're reading the script, just that tone and that texture. And I give a lot of credit to the writers who were inspired by movies of that time and of that era. You mentioned Peck and Paw, Eastwood movies, Steve McQueen movies. That tone, that texture where character was important. And the action that you saw was fueled by great emotion. Not just action for the sake of action, not big explosions, not anything over the top, but I'm gonna find you and I have one big bullet and it's going right between your eyes. And it's fueled with that type of emotion, which oftentimes is even more powerful than a big explosion or a big grenade or something like that. So, you know, I loved that, and I'm a fan of movies of that era too. So that the fact that we were able to capture that, the director's vision, George Tillman, he wanted to capture that. That was important. The tone, the texture, even the color palette of the movie. You know, he wanted that feel. So, you know, I was really, really impressed.
How the devil got your heart twisted? The vengeance and hate. Can you find it in your heart to forgive?
I can't.